Yes, social media, what's going on? My name is Vic and I'm going to talk to you about another one of our BRRs brought to you by my HMO. But guess what? This ain't a HMO at all. This is a 1-bedroom conversion into a 2-bedroom flat. I bought this for 177k. There's a major London tube station about 10 minutes walk that way. It was a massively below market value deal. Let me take you through it. You want to come and have a look? Actually no, there's tenants in here. What am I talking about? We'll do it from the desktop. Right, so we're no longer in front of the property. We're back. I'm comfortable. Let's talk to you about this BRR. First, what I want to do actually take a quick detour. Let's talk about what a BRRR is. So, number one, the objective of a BRRR, you're going through a whole set of processes, right? And the BRRR are the acronyms or the first letter of those different processes. And the idea at the end of the project is that you pull your money out, right? So you have more money to go and do the next deal. And so how do you do this? Well, number one, you've got B. So you know me guys, I like a few slides. I think it helps with the education, helps me talk through things. So what you can see behind me is the first couple of letters, the B for buy. That's quite simple, right? Buying. Well, no, it's not. In order to pull your cash out, you need to be buying smart. So how do you do that? Well, the first part of that is understanding your local market, your patch. Do you know the average price of a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom for the type of property you're looking for? It's really important you do. That's how you know if you're going to be buying below market value or not. So in order to do a good BRR, you need to start with a good B. Part of that is finding motivated sellers, people who are distressed. Sounds awful a little bit, doesn't it? But unfortunately, there are people out there that need to shift their properties. Well, actually, maybe it might be the other end of the spectrum where they're tired landlords or they're elderly, they had their property for ages, it's paid off, and they're not that fussed whether they get 15, 20k more or less, and they just want to shift it. This happens. You know your market. Now it's about finding those distressed or motivated sellers so that you can bag yourself a deal. All the usual portals, right, are okay for this. Rightmove, Zoopla, other websites that sell properties. There's lots of them. It's not just those two, but obviously they're the main ones. Linking up with agents, direct to vendor. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but ultimately that's the B, right, in a BRRR, the buy. So then we've got refurbish, right? So refurbish your property. Again, you're not just going in, painting a couple of walls. You've got a strategy in mind. This particular example today is a 1 to 2 bedroom. So what I'm doing is adding a bedroom to create value. But you've already got that in mind, right? When you're doing your refurbish, you know, you're HMOing the property, you're adding a bedroom, you're adding extensions, you're splitting a house into flats, whatever it is, you've got that in mind. So day one, you go in, you do your refurbish. That's the second part of a BRRR. You should already know the cost of the refurbish. You should know the timelines, and you should have a rough idea of what your property, the gross development value, is going to be at the end of doing your refurbishment. That's why you get your buy, you do your refurbish. That's where most of your costs are baked in, and that ultimately should be a lot less than your GDV, your gross development value, or value after your refurbishment, and you should be able to pull some money out. Watch this example and I'll show you how I did it. Then you've got rent out and refinance. These two things for me are interchangeable. Some people do rent out first, some people do refinance first. I think it depends on the type of project, but in this particular instance, I'm just going to talk you through rent out. So that's pretty simple. You get tenants in, you can do that through our AST, or you can do what we do and supercharge the rent through things like partnering with social housing. Again, in the example to come, you're going to see how I did that and the difference it makes to the return I get. And then finally, the R, the last R, is refinance. So if we go back to the refurbishment and the buy, well, you should already have a good idea of what your GDV is, what the property is going to be worth at the end of doing your work. Ultimately, a surveyor is the one that's going to decide, right, what the value of the property is. But your GDV, if you've done it right, should be within about 10% tolerance up or down of your target. And you should probably be doing your maths on the lower end of that. Remember, you're only going to be getting 75% of whatever your GDV is. So that's the cash that you're left with. And that's what needs to pay for most or all of the work that you have done and the cost of the property. If you're going down the social housing route, well, you're going to get a 65% loan to value, so it's going to be slightly lower, but the dynamics work the same. The point here is that the 65 or 75% cash you're left with should pay for your property, your refurbishment, all of your costs, your stamp duty, your legals, or near as possible. And then you've got the final R. Some people put it in, some people leave it out, but because you got some cash, you repeat, and then you just go BRR, 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 and hopefully that builds up a nice sizable property portfolio. Okay, so now we've been through a BRRR. Let's talk about this example specifically. The strategy in this instance was to get a 1-bedroom property and convert to a 2-bedroom. At the time, I wanted something that was reasonably low level entry into the market, especially where I'm from in West London. So what did I do? Well, I understood my patch, right? I understood what the value of a 1-bedroom property was local to where I wanted it, and that was within walking distance of a tube station, good commuter links, close to facilities, close to a high street. All of these things were important, right? Because of the tenant demographic I was targeting. So what you need to be doing here on Zoopla, Rightmove, is checking sold house prices. Asking prices, or the price that is advertised, is basically meaningless, right? No one tends to pay those unless you're in a boom market, but sold house prices are what will tell you what that particular type of property, so 1-bedroom in this case, is worth in the area. Then my recommendation would be you create a detailed spreadsheet of 1, 2, 3-bedroom properties, right? So you start to get to know your areas that you're targeted on. So immediately when something comes up, you know, well, is this within target value? Is it below market value? Is it above? You can look for properties that have been hanging around on Rightmove, hanging around on Zoopla. That might be a way of knowing if a seller is motivated. You can talk to agents on these types of things in order to try and land yourself a good deal. So I always felt like market value on a 1-bedroom property was about 225k, right? That's what I had in mind. I didn't want to pay that because I knew there was work to be done. I wanted the conversion, and I wanted to try and get as much of my money out of this deal as possible. So I saw this property you can see on the slide in the background. It was on the market, went and had a look, had a chat with the agent, and it felt like it was priced a little bit too high. It fits the BRRR strategy, so it works from that sense. I was looking for something ex-council, and that's what that is. I'll tell you why when we talk about refurbishment. It turned out, after conversations with the agent and having monitored this property for a few weeks, we had a motivated seller, right? So I went in quite low. I felt like I could land a deal here. The market was down. The lease was not a short lease by any stretch, but it was on the shorter side. It would need renewing at some point. I think there was about 87, 88 years, something like that. My initial offer was rejected. You always want that, by the way, yeah? You always want your first offer rejected, because imagine if it gets accepted. You'll be sat there thinking, hold on a second, what have I left on the table? What would they have taken? If your first offer is rejected, you know where you're at, you know where you're starting off. So I offered, then I came back a few weeks later, the property was still on the market, and I managed to bag this for 177k. Now that is significantly below market value. There's no set rule on how far below market value you want your properties. This was quite far below. It was a really good deal. It's within 10 minutes walk off a London tube station, so you're not going to get too many properties of that value. But everybody thinks that you can't land these kind of bargains in London within the M25. Well, this is proof you can. So next, the refurbishment, the fun part or the not so fun part, depending on where you sit. It's definitely where the hard work is. I knew I wanted to convert this from a 1 to 2 bedroom, right? So at the outset, when I'm looking at properties, I'm looking at the floor plan. I'm looking at making a really simple adjustment of getting the existing kitchen and moving it into an open plan living space. So therefore creating a 2nd bedroom from the vacated kitchen space and not having to knock down any walls, not doing any rejigging of the layout. And there you have it, you created a 2 bedroom. Sounds easy, right? But it's a bit more complicated than that. Typically what I find for this type of BRRR, ex-council properties work really well. One, the council, depending on the council, right, there's lots, but they tend to be easier to work with in terms of they will allow you to convert from a 1 bedroom to a 2 bedroom. That's important. You need to make sure that you've consulted with the freeholder ahead of buying this thing and making sure that they will allow you to make this conversion, right? This is a leasehold property. Most flats are. You need to ask the freeholder for permission to make this change. Don't buy it and then go to the freeholder. They might say no, their fees might be ridiculous. There's always some fees involved. So you need to be thinking about that. So I had my plan on a page, move the kitchen into the living room, create an open plan living diner, and then creating a 2-bedroom flat. So I knew what that was going to cost me. I had the tradesmen in. I knew roughly it's going to take between about 6 to 8 weeks. So we had our plan. So you want to see how it turned out? Let's take a look. All right, what do you think? Looks good? Yeah, well, look, it's an ex-council. Definitely the spec I was going for. Not super premium, but still really nice kitchen, really nice space in there. Good 2 bedrooms, bathroom looked really good. So I was really happy with how this turned out. Let's go into the numbers. So as I said, look, the target on a refinance is to pull out as much money as you possibly can. I had a GDV of between 250 and 275k in mind, right at the outset. So when you're doing your numbers, these are things you need to think about. This is what you need to plan. I can help with that. Reach out if you need that. But the surveyor has the final say. They gave me a valuation of 250k. I was a bit annoyed by that. You know, I'm Punjabi, and the surveyor that turned out was Punjabi, and I gave him the whole look after your brother kind of thing, and that can go one of two ways. I think it went the wrong way, so you got a bit of a, yeah. But 250k weren't the end of the world. It was still within my 10% tolerance. Let me tell you how that affected the numbers. So I bought the property for 177k, as I said. The total cost of the refurb, stamp duty, legals, everything all in cost me 43k. So I had spent 220k on the project. The refinance, as I just told you, come out at 250. I think I could just put it on the open market and sell it for more. That wasn't the strategy. So I just took it, I just accepted it. These things happen and the numbers still work for me, right? Not the end of the world. So 250k valuation, I'm pulling out 75%. That's 187.5k. So the people that are good at maths would have immediately known that's 32.5k left in the deal. So not bad, right? I've got a 2-bedroom flat in London, 10 minutes from a tube station, in a very high demand area from a major high street, and I've spent 32.5k. That's my own cash in the deal. Not too bad. Let's look at the rent out. Right, so when I compare the rental market, rent you would get for a property like this is about £2,000 on a normal AST. But you know how we do it at my HMO, we supercharge the rent. We work with social housing providers and I'm actually getting £2,800. I've got that for the last 13-14 months. So I'm recording this a long time down the road. So the rent is pretty solid. It's a good deal. Total cost, including mortgage, wear and tear allowance, all of the little things you'd have, service charge, etc., costing me about £1,300 a month. So I'm taking home a profit of about £1,500 for this. An incredible 55% return on investment. You want to do deals like that? You want to do deals like this in London? We're a low barrier to entry. Come and chat to me. We can make these happen. I've got 4 or 5 right now saved on Rightmove that I'm looking at and hoping to move on soon. See you in the next one.